I'm your host, PJ.
And I'm your host, MJ.
And this is Couple of J's podcast. Me and my wife have been married for 15 years. But last summer, something happened that I just can't seem to get over. So I wanted to send a text to one of my good friends who recently got divorced to ask how he was doing. My wife insisted I don't, and to let him be until he was ready to talk about it. So I took her advice and said, yeah, maybe you're right. I'll wait. 15 minutes later, my wife goes up to the bathroom, and while I was on our laptop, I saw a message on Messenger pop up. All of a sudden, I see her asking Tom how he was doing. At this moment, I was a bit taken back and thrown all the way off. So I waited until she was done. Unable to hold my emotions, I asked her, did you just send Tom a message after you just told me not to? She then replied, no, why would I do that? Frustrated at her now lying, I immediately showed her the message. She got upset and told me I shouldn't be going through her messenger. She ran upstairs and started crying. I asked her, why would you lie to me and why would you message my friend after you just told me not to? She looked at me and said, I don't know. I asked her, is there something I should know? And she said, no. I left it alone, but since that day, the situation has not left my mind. Should I be concerned?
This is what, 2 years later? A year later, it said?
Yeah, it was 2 years later. And that thing is still running through his mind.
That's just interesting to me.
Why?
Because first of all, why are you so comfortable, like,
messaging my friend?
Yeah. He didn't really break down how overall all their relationships were.
Right.
Because maybe, like,
if they knew each other or something.
Yeah,
I just
it was
find
a mutual thing.
Why would she tell him not to, and then she go ahead and... That's just weird. That's just weird behavior. And then run upstairs on your phone, go onto Facebook Messenger and go and message his friend and ask him how he's doing. Well,
it's giving...
Preying on his vulnerabilities while he's weak. Knowing he just got divorced.
I want to be the first. I want to do it first.
I even take it deeper than that. I take it to where she wants to be his friend's comfort. She probably has some type of like, you know, that's where my mind would go. Like,
right. So you don't do it because I'm about to do it. Like, that's weird.
Yeah. Maybe she liked his friend. That's where I take it. She liked his friend. That's wanted to be the shoulder to lean on. And then
make him feel comfortable.
Yeah. And then like a snake slithers.
That was snaky.
Yeah.
And that's not even something that's just like, oh, like that was unintentional. Like that was just weird.
Super intentional
and weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But how would you feel? How would you feel if I'm like,
I would not stop bringing it up. I would need answers.
You think that could be relationship ending? Like
based on how they act?
If to me, towards the end, when he went and asked her, like,
and she lied about it.
Why would you lie about it? And then she started crying and ran upstairs. I'm like, nah. nah, you just gaslighted this whole situation. How are you mad at me again? You're the one that just told me.
You're right. Like that is gaslighting.
Yeah, just gaslit the whole situation and then cried your way out of it. Typical women.
Men do it too.
Typical
men
get caught in the act and use their emotions to
men do
escape the situation.
Men and women do that, not just women. Don't just put it on women. But yeah, that's breakup worthy, especially when your response is.
See, you ain't ready for marriage.
What you mean?
Because they're married. What do you mean that's breakup worthy? These are things you got to work through.
If my girlfriend just went through a divorce and I'm like, oh, I don't know, should I hit her up? And my husband tells me, no, just let her come to you. Cause that's the best thing that you could do. Just let her come to you. 15 minutes later or so, find out you instead went to my friend and decided to ask how they were doing. And then you try to gaslight me. And if your answer isn't like good enough, Like, what would even make sense for someone to do that, for it to be justifiable? Like, it's just not.
Right.
So unless you can really manipulate, gaslight the situation to make it sound really good, which I just don't know how you're going to do that because I'm not stupid.
Right.
Then
do you think
there's
that
no
they
way
had
out of
something
that.
else going on? Like,
I think it's what you said in the beginning with wanting to be that shoulder to cry on. Like, she's using his vulnerability, you know,
kind of slither her way in.
Yeah, which again this is like the beginning of cheating.
Right.
You know, how far are you going to allow this to go? You know, now you said that that's too much to do a whole divorce over.
Yeah, I think it's something that you have to
But
give it to God. Like, this is something that, like, okay, like, now we have an issue because I'm asking you.
okay, I guess.
We're like, now you're lying to me. You get caught. You don't want to be accountable.
And now
how can I trust you? Like, from here on out, like, if I go and ask you a question, you just lied to me about something so petty. Like, so we're either gonna have to wring your sin out because you're lying, and you can't be adult about it. And we either got to do that together and come to a point.
And you just confess your intentions. And yes, I believe that
it's very hard for people to do.
Yes, it is. I think that's a good way to look at it, is just be accountable. Why did you do that? But it's how you come to the person as well. You have to be open and welcoming enough, even with your partner, to be like.
Do you think in that moment he should be asking her all of those questions, or do you feel like he needs to be a little bit more balanced and sit with it a little bit before he can get like a real answer out of her? Like, how do you think he should handle a situation like that, even though he's the one where his he should be questioning, he should be asking her, like, in that situation where he's dealing with that kind of person, how does he go about it?
It's just based on your relationship. How do you know you and your partner to handle confrontation and issues? Has this been something like this has come into the relationship before?
Right.
How did you handle it? How did that work out?
Right.
That's all about like learning your partner, yourself, in your relationship.
Right.
It's hard to really say what is the best thing for another relationship when you don't know that relationship.
Yeah, you don't know the ins and outs, how they deal with it.
And even in being in a relationship or a marriage for years, you're still always learning each other, and you're hopefully growing still. So with that comes changing like how you treat confrontation. You know, even like,
do you think
me
it's
and
justifiable for her to lie though? Like,
no, it's
how many times are you allowed to go be a liar? Like, how many times are you before you're like, all right, you're just a liar, I can't trust you, we either have to take this to God or we can't be together? Like,
I don't know. It's like, what are these lies?
Like, small lies. It could be small lies.
It's like, just based on the person and how much they're willing.
How many lies have I allowed you?
Shut up. Your definition or your view of me lying is me just not telling you things of my past. That's all it is.
That's considered lying. Not saying nothing.
And it has nothing to do with you.
It's the same exact effect as lying.
No. I think we have talked about this before, where the conversation went, before getting into a relationship, how much do you tell someone when dating?
Yeah, no. But I'm not even that. Like, okay, let's not get into that because we have gotten into that. What my question is to you is not saying something just as equal as lying.
So you're okay. So in a way of maybe I'm out and about.
Right.
Let's say
you're hanging around with some guys. You didn't do nothing wrong. Like you.
Not even just someone probably comes up to me. I know I'm in a relationship and is like, "Oh, you're beautiful. What's your number?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't have not my number, but you could take my Instagram, right?"
Yeah.
And we never say that to you. One, Don't ever have me find out. Don't ever have me find out. But yeah, would you say that's cheating too? Is that cheating?
I don't know.
I think that's micro cheating.
Could be micro cheating. But also too, like, you're a friendly person.
Yeah, but I've had, let me tell y'all. Call this a lie. Because I ain't never tell you this. I ain't never tell you this. Look, he's like, what?
Cut the podcast. It's about to be an argument now. So.
What's she about to say?
What's she about to say? Let's see.
So this is the reason why I kind of like stopped telling VJ things, because he's like, well, you're beautiful. What do you think? Da-da-da-da. That's his response. So it's just, why even say anything he doesn't? Not that I even want a reaction from you, but your reaction towards me is always, just don't care. Like, you'd be like, oh, you're full. Like, oh, cool. Right? So I'd be like, he don't care. Like, why do I even tell him? So I was at Stop and Shop one day, and a worker actually comes up to me, and they're like, wow, like, you're so beautiful, blase blase. And I'm like, thank you. And he's like, oh, do you mind if I like get your number? And I'm like, oh, I have a boyfriend or whatever. And he said, you sure you don't? Like, he still was trying to initiate. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's insane. I literally just told you I had a boyfriend.
Yeah. And you never told me that.
I never told you that.
So
and he's still
is that worse than a lie?
And he still tried, but I never was like, take my Instagram instead, or here's my number, or I didn't try to sneak my way into that.
I think I don't consider that a lot. Like, I don't equate that type of situation to.
But like telling lying. You things in
like that's just, you're gonna go through that on a daily basis. Like, I don't care to know that. Like, I don't like. Exactly. I expect you to handle yourself with integrity, like a woman. I don't need to micromanage every situation that you're in. Like, you're grown, you know what the relationship is about, right? What would bother me, right, is if it goes beyond that, or you do something with like action based, and
to take that further,
right? To take that further, don't say nothing. Now it's like, all right, that's a form of cheating. That's not even, you're not even being honest at this point. Even if, like, let's say you did give him the Instagram and it was through, like, you didn't have no bad intention behind giving it. You just gave it because it's just like, whatever, it's Instagram.
No.
I would expect you to tell me that part, because then I'm going to want to know why. Like, why would you give him your Insta? Like, what do you want him to see of you? Like, you know, like, what do you want? What was the point of it? Why are you giving out your information to people? You know, but and then you didn't say nothing, and all of a sudden he's in your DMs or something like that. That's just weird. Like, I would be like a little off put, but like,
this is just someone I met at Stop and Shop. We're just texting, like, it's on some friendly. That is that breakup worthy?
That is. We have to sit down and talk about our boundaries.
Man, I go straight to breakup. You're a cheater.
We got to sit down and talk about our boundaries, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like, I'm a true believer now. Like, oh, this is where our boundaries lie. Okay, cool. Don't be upset when that, you know, if that happens. Yeah. And I'm in that situation, right? So, like, I always, you know, I'm like a strong believer in this. Like, I'm going to allow you to set the boundary to what you think is okay. I could handle a lot, but make sure that whatever you do, you can handle on this side.
You guys, you've been through this a lot. As you can
That's
tell.
It. Like, I set my boundaries already, and I'll compromise with your boundaries, and, you know, we can, you know, talk about how, you know, how far they go or whatever. But if you feel like this isn't a big deal, just make sure that it isn't a big deal when I do it. Like, you know, like, that's it. But yeah, so I do equate not saying nothing as lying in certain situations. But there's things that you don't need to tell me, because it's like, you're a grown woman. I don't need to micromanage your every move. You know, like, you have morals and integrity, then you're going to know how to move when you're in a relationship. So for me, but the thing that you're talking about in the beginning with our like not saying something, I think that's a big deal too, right? So
Yeah, I know.
if you don't tell me something that can alter, especially if you know like we're moving forward, we're getting ready to go into the next level, the relationship's going to get a little bit deeper, a little bit more, serious. I think that withholding information because it may be frowned upon, or you may be scared to because it's like a, whatever kind of situation, or it may alter the way I view you, or I think that that's also considered lying, and equates to lying, because I need to get to know you to the fullest extent, right? And then I need to make a decision on, is this a person that I want to spend my life with, my future with? And in order to know that, I need to know, those types of things. How'd you move in the past? How are you moving now? What's your mindset now, right? So if you sit there and hold things back from me, and now I'm dealing with, trauma response behaviors, and I'm like, where's this coming from? That's going to be an issue, because let's say you do tell me, right? And we work through those things. Now, one, that's going to build a stronger connection. And two, I know that you're not hiding anything from me, and I'm not hiding nothing from you, and we could just be open with each other about our whole thing, So now we could really talk about marriage and spending a future together. So I don't know.
There's many ways to look at that, because though we've came this far with what we know today, there's things that we could have done differently. I could have done differently.
Right.
I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't, because I understand what you're saying. I understand your perspective, and obviously my own perspective on, well, if you're just going to leave the situation anyways because something that happened to the past just didn't align with you or whatever, it's just like, then what was the point? Like, I just told you one of my, like, something that was like just really true to my heart that nobody really knows, or nobody knows at all. And now you're just going to leave me because this doesn't align with you, and this is my past. Like, I don't do this anymore. I haven't done this. So it's your responsibility to uphold your truth. But I also do believe that it makes sense that along the way, if you start seeing things like, okay, why does he respond like this? And you communicate it, and you communicate with your partner about, I noticed that you leave as soon as, we get into an argument. Why do you do that? What has happened to you? What trauma have you been through? And digging deep like that, and then going along the way makes sense as well, instead of just being like, let's just put it all on the table and let's just see what I could handle or not, and let me just see if you're fit. Like, that to me either just doesn't make sense either. Well, I mean, it's not really fair to that person. It is some ways fair, because however, if you have a drug addiction, I need to know that, because this is what I'm saying. That's. I feel like if it's that heavy, but if it's something that something that was done, like, no, I think that I messed with this dude. When I was this age and this happened. I don't really think that's important until it's time for it to come up, if it does come up. I think that those are, especially like what you brought up a great point about, like, someone being a drug addict. That's a great example. Let's say that you met me in church. Mm-hmm. I once was an addict, but you know me now for this, and I'm like, man, like, I don't want to ruin what I have in front of me, so I'm gonna hide that I used to be an addict to her. Right? Are you still struggling with that though? It doesn't matter. What matters is, are you willing to accept all of me? Mm-hmm. Because we could only get so deep if you don't. Like, there's a certain point in the relationship where you're gonna have to dig deep, and maybe these things can reoccur, right? Are you strong enough to hold me up if
let's say I draw back to the addiction, like, you're gonna be like, well, you never told me you was addicted to, these drugs. Like, this is something that I can't handle. I never could. Like, why wouldn't you tell me? Right? It'll start to go into that. So, although met me and I was in church or whatever the case was, for example, these are things you need to know, because in marriage you're gonna have to go through these uphill battles, and life is a roller coaster. You may find yourself back into that. Just because you're not in that now doesn't mean that that's something that
you still struggle with.
Right, you still struggle with, because addiction is every day you're choosing to say no, right?
Well, then, because like I said, I do understand your perspective, and I know how much weight that holds.
Right.
But what would you say to someone who just doesn't go into stuff feeling comfortable? Because some people, like you might come into the relationship and be like, here's everything.
Yeah.
I'll come into a relationship and be like, here's a piece there. All right. Another piece here. That's something else about me. Here's another piece. So how do you feel about people who are just not comfortable enough to just put it all on the table like you were? And it took you to a certain point in your life to even get to that point, correct?
Yeah.
You weren't just like that.
It just depends on where you're at on moving forward with that person. If in your mind you're like, there's not really a person that, because if I didn't take somebody serious, I wouldn't tell them nothing about me. I would just kind of go through the motions until it got to a deeper level.
And pause there. So in a lot of relationships, and I can even speak from, I am speaking for myself, not relationships, but situations that I've been in with other men. It's like, all right, is he going to take me seriously or not? And that's not something that men are really upfront about, or they lie. Mm-hmm. A lot of men will lie and tell you, wow, you're perfect. Like, you're everything, I'm going to marry you one day and this and this and that. And it's like, they tell you everything you want to hear. And when you're used to men just disappointing you and telling you lies, how do you expect someone to one day just change and be like, and continue to do that when they're trying to settle down in a relationship?
That's why I say, like, how
that's hard.
You got to understand this, how serious you're getting within that.
But I'm saying you could have played the role so well, like men do, mm-hmm. and made me believe, oh, he's serious about me.
Right.
Like just like the other one said he was, I just know this one is.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't know that. Like, you truly don't.
This is why you have to live in your truth. Like, the going into anything, any kind of relationship, is like, are you going to accept all of me? Right. And if you're at a point where you feel like the relationship is getting serious, that's going to require for that other person to take all of you, whatever that consists of. And if that drives them away, if that pushes them away, if for some reason nothing you say drives them away, they just don't want to take you serious, they're playing with you, then they just did you a favor. They're not supposed to be in your life. God has removed that person from your life. They're not for you. Mm-hmm. And that's how you have to look at the situation. It's not about like divulging all your secrets. It's just more so living in your truth and allowing the person to love all of you. And if they're not for you, God will remove them.
I think sometimes it can feel like that, though.
Yeah.
Like you are kind of just putting, like, you're putting a vulnerable part of you out.
Yeah.
And that's just not easy to do, especially when you don't even know how you feel about this person or how this person feels about you. It's easier said than done. Like I said, you went through your own journey to even get to a point like that. Not everybody goes through that before, a certain part of their point in their life. Mm-hmm. And when you meet someone who hasn't yet discovered that part, it's like, you're going to have two different perspectives and opinions on like what we're talking about. And I think that was us too. Like,
that's why I said it's also like, that's another thing, like meeting somebody where you're at, right. And where they're at, like, that's part of like coming into a relationship. That's, what are you guys on the same page, on the same level, and, willing to enter it understanding that you both been through something, but like there's growth there and you both could grow into something, you know, just meeting each other where you're at. So like my vulnerabilities may draw you closer or push you away. And if they draw you closer and you know how to nurture that and you know how to work around that, and you know how to grow in, you know, and you allow me to grow into our relationship, then that makes the connection even stronger.
Yeah.
You know, and vice versa. Like, you know, if you tell me something and I stand and you know, and I'm firm and solid for you, you know, now you can rest easy and assure that like this is a connection that you want to be in.
Yeah.
You know, you could grow into that. You could understand like, man, I've told him my toughest battles in life and he reaffirmed me and he assured me and he was able to walk through that with me and to where you could grow out of that. You know what I'm saying? And grow from that. So it just makes the connection all that much stronger, I believe, you know. And when you could go through that, man, you're talking about a forever thing. You know, you're talking about a life sentence with someone, you know? So, I mean, it's important that you get those things out the way in the beginning, man. It can drive your relationship. You know, it could be the driving force to your relationship or it could drive you away from each other.
So you don't think you should take your time with that information?
I think that you have to understand the severity of the relationship. Like, where are you at? Like, is this like, are you in this? Like, did we discuss, have we gotten into these deep discussions? This is why I love Love is Blind, because we're through a wall and all there is conversation. We have no choice but to get deep, right? We have no choice but to go a little bit deeper into conversation, you know, and not seeing each other. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it requires a certain amount of communication, a certain level of depth that you have to get to in order to really like the person on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
That should be in life, you know?
Yeah, and what you even said about like the marriage thing when I responded with that's a divorce, right? Just because of a text, because I go so over my head with things that I'm so quick to be like, certain things are just like non-negotiables. Like
right.
Cheating, we know, non-negotiable, done deal.
1000%.
As soon as it even sounds like cheating or you're interested in someone else that isn't your partner, me, then it gets like, okay, cut this off. We're done. Like, why do you even have to think about it? Why is this person even in your head? Why are you still communicating or anything like that? It's just done. Because I just think the worst of the worst. Like, yeah. What am I walking into if I keep allowing this or if I let this go, you know?
Yeah,
I think it's really important, not to cut you off. I was cutting you
I was cutting you off.
I wasn't done.
Go ahead.
But I do think when you are married, that's not something that you can just do. Cheating, like we said, non-negotiable, it's done.
Right.
Maybe I would change woman. Like, we can't divorce. Once we're together, this is it. No, don't think that you can cheat because you can't. And I will divorce you.
You know why you think this? Relax.
But it's not that easy, and it shouldn't be that easy. And I think as a society, unless you are truly being abused, and it does say in the Bible, unless the person is unfaithful, then you can divorce. Yeah. But I feel like let's work together in a partnership, seriously, deeply, right. And just I just thought about how easy that was to give up right now. And that kind of just made me think.
When you really dive deep into the Bible and it talks about marriage, it tells you
it's
that
serious.
Like, God only recognizes one marriage.
It's serious.
One person, you know, and anything outside of that is sin. So little arguments,
especially, I'm just saying, man, and especially if you're not married yet, right? Like, thankfully, we have never been married yet, because being married and then finding each other and being like, oh, I want to marry this person again. I think about other people who do that, and not judging, but now that I know the word, it's like, oh, I know. But God sees it like this.
It's so crazy because, like, I always saw marriage this sounds insane, but I've always saw marriage way more intimate and more serious than having children.
I think a lot of people do.
I'm like having kids with somebody is like, okay, I had a kid with this person, and yeah, it's a lifelong thing, but for some reason I've always saw like marriage more serious, so I never got married. Tempted to.
I'm glad you didn't.
But I never got married. But
I'm glad you didn't.
oh,
Because
God-
I don't know how I would feel.
God was nope.
Nope.
Just kept.
And I'm so glad because how I
showing me
would
not to.
how I would feel knowing that it's one thing.
Yo, I just thought about that. Yo, God is the ultimate mastermind, man. Because like, even just thinking about that, he's like, man, when you're ready to come to me, all will be right, and I'll make sure you do things correctly.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you have no understanding at the time. Like sometimes
Right.
some people have no understanding of the word, how God works, and it's like he'll set it up where it's like, all right, I know you don't even know.
And he's like, probably like, now you're ready. Like,
Yeah.
now you're ready to, I'm going to recognize your relationship under me.
Oh my
Nah.
gosh, that's so heartfelt. Because
Yeah.
even before being in the word when I was younger, I think I told you this, like my dad one day came out of jail and it was me, my mom, and my sister in the living room on this summer day. And he's just came in with my brother, older brother or whatever. And he's just like got out of the jail on some like spirit. Like he's a very spiritual guy anyways, but just in his heart had the Holy Spirit in him. And he just was on his knees and he was just getting deep, with us. And one of the things that I remember him saying is I actually recorded it was talking to my mom, like, and I'm not sure, since she wasn't the first husband, they weren't married first to each other. He was like, I don't count. God don't see our relationship. I'm married to the first person he married, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm married to her. I'm not married to you. I'm not married to my wife now because God doesn't see it like that. And he was just like getting into this marriage thing, and I never knew that. And when my dad speaks, I'd be like, all ears, like ready to listen.
I definitely have to.
And that always hit me. And I don't know how I would feel if I were to be in a relationship with someone who was already previously married and got divorced.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
And I just thank God that that's not our case, because how strongly I feel about it and how even more strong I feel about it now is just different.
Yeah. I have to emphasize that to my kids. I feel like I have to. Like, it's something that I think I have to make very important. Like, if you're going to marry somebody, like, this needs to be the person, because you're gonna have to go through it. There is no getting divorced.
And you're going to work it out,
yes.
right?
So make sure that you have discernment on her character. Make sure you have those deep talks. Make sure that you understand her environment, who she's been around, how she thinks, her thought,
family.
her thought process, her family, everything, friends, all of that. All of that is gonna come into play. And you guys need to be on the same page when you become equally yoked, right? Like, she needs to understand her position. You need to understand yours. You have to put God first, like, and you have to work through everything,
Yeah, I agree.
So, like, whew,
you cannot play with that.
I gotta sit them down.
Yeah. When you think about it, it's something that you cannot play with that.
Yeah, 1000%. Because I don't. They say the only things you could take to heaven with you are your children, because if you teach them the word, you can
bring them with you.
Yeah, they'll go to God's kingdom.
Come with you,
right? So teaching them these things, and I'm just glad that
we know this now.
We know this,
and on a deeper level.
On a deep level,
because I knew this, like I said, to some extent.
Degree, yeah.
But now, really being in the Bible is like, oh, he don't play.
Yeah, he's not playing.
And I'm not trying to play about my God either. So it's like,
Christ is king.
Yes.